Welcome to Archin, a media home for the Archway ecosystem. Archway is a new Cosmos Layer 1 built with builders in mind, and here at Archin, we aim to bring news, updates, tutorials, and internal and external interviews from Archway and its neighboring ecosystems directly to you, the community. In this first episode, we have Griffin Anderson, founder and CEO of Phi Labs, a contributing development team to the Archway protocol. Griffin will talk with us about his past working with Ethereum and Consensus and Tendermint, and what observations led him to start building Archway. If you're interested in building Web3 sustainably, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel. There's a lot of development going on and a lot of content on its way to showcase it. Enjoy.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Phi Labs or the Archway protocol. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only.
Griffin Anderson, founder CEO of Phi Labs. Welcome to the Archin podcast.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So Griffin, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know a lot of people have seen Phi Labs' beautiful orange coloring, whether it's at Cosmoverse or on Twitter or other social medias, but they're starting to get the idea of like, okay, so this is going to be some kind of new layer one that's going to be rewarding developers, and they're aiming at sustainability. But a lot of them may not know that Griffin Anderson is the CEO and the founder and the one who raised $21+ million to get this kicked off, and really the thought leader behind this brilliant idea. So introduce us to you.
Yeah, of course, Eric. So my background's fintech background. Been doing that for many years. Worked my way up, doing software engineering development and product stuff and the like. And I was really, really fortunate to be able to join the Ethereum community back in 2015. Was one of the first hires over at a company called Consensus, and kind of had a front row seat to a lot of the go-to-market stuff on the Ethereum side. So saw that whole ecosystem expand and grow into kind of what it is today, and played a number of hats. I was there when the original DAO hack happened, and I remember that. And I remember just going through some of the big things like Enterprise Ethereum Alliance and flying all around the world to try to help set up offices and meet people and grow the Ethereum ecosystem. So I've been really fortunate enough to be in the Web3 crypto space for a number of years. After I left that, I ended up supporting and advising some DeFi projects and NFT projects. And then eventually I worked my way over to Tendermint. Tendermint is the private company behind the Cosmos ecosystem. And together we worked to basically start to form and incubate basically this brand new protocol called the Archway protocol. The team and the community has been working on this for a couple of years now. And then as the group and the organization within Tendermint grew very significantly, what we decided to do was spin out the core team, the core Tendermint team that was working on this project, out to a brand new software company called Phi Labs, whose job and focus is to contribute and support the Archway protocol ecosystem, among a whole bunch of other initiatives as well. So that's a little bit about myself, and we can dive into more the details here as we go.
Yeah. So yeah. Crypto OG back with Ethereum came over to help out Tendermint. So thank you for all that. I think we're all grateful that the Cosmos ecosystem has blossomed into what we see today, and stayed with Tendermint through the switch to Ignite, and then worked through the Ignite incubator into developing what is now getting ready to be launched, being Archway. So what inspired you to go start your own project? What was lacking in the rest of crypto, and what did you feel you could accomplish with this?
Yeah, so what I often found, so working in the Ethereum space, what I found was, I was looking to do basically another project and work on something new and interesting. And there, at the time, this would have been probably around 2019, give or take. There weren't a lot of options in that bear market. There were. And so the one option was possibly go build like a DeFi app or NFT app on top of the Ethereum ecosystem. But I slightly got disenfranchised contributing to that ecosystem. I had been in it from the trenches from the start. I had known a lot of the different, senior actors. And the reality is a lot of the very early core contributors to the Ethereum ecosystem weren't really actively engaged in that in the ecosystem back in 2009, a few years later. A lot of them I think financially probably did pretty well and ended up, retiring or moving on and doing other things. And I just felt so disenfranchised, going to build and contribute to an ecosystem or a platform and not really, I knew I'd be driving significant activity and transactions and activity to that underlying chain and that underlying ecosystem. But as a DeFi dApp or an NFT app or something like that, the question was like, what value would I get by contributing to an already established ecosystem? What is the community and the ecosystem doing for me as a developer? What is it doing to give back? And so I felt very, very disenfranchised. And that's why we started to build the Archway protocol. Archway's, general mission is basically to make sure that all the different, the community's mission is basically to make sure all the general stakeholders that are involved with the protocol are rewarded for the works and the contributions that they give to the ecosystem and to the protocol. And the thing is like right now in most of these networks, the validators of the miners, the folks, the DevOps engineers and the teams that are running the servers behind the scenes around the world do a fantastic job. And they're being rewarded for the value and their contributions that they bring to the underlying network. But unfortunately, the dApp developers that are bringing all these transactions and end users and activity are often left out of the equation. And so what we wanted to do was redesign a layer one that really thought about enabling all these different stakeholders, not just the validators or the miners that are running the network behind the scenes, but also the dApp developers building on top as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. There's definitely this fat protocol thesis, and that like the more dApps are developed on a layer one, the more value that goes to that layer one. So building that infrastructure so that developers will come and build apps to work for themselves instead of just relying on new people to come and continue to make you rich. Because as you notice with Ethereum, it's hard to get rich people to work. Why should they? The incentives matter a lot less to them. So Obviously, I think it's a brilliant project, which is one of the reasons I came over here to build. And you also hit the nail on the head talking about how validators and stakers are making money hand over fist and not necessarily the developers. Right now, in the Cosmos ecosystem and beyond, really in Web3, developers are very reliant on these grant programs and picking up one grant at a time and then building something enough to fulfill the grant, but not necessarily putting the time and effort in to continue nurturing the project because the incentives aren't really in place to build something that scales and gains the utility. It's more the incentives are in place to get the next grant because that's where the money's coming from. And if we are able to properly set up the infrastructure so that at any point in time, different app creators can come in and build on this infrastructure and just based on the success of their protocol, can get rewards and build something sustainably that works for them. It doesn't matter what came before. It doesn't matter what comes after. At any time, they can come and build something for themselves very easily with the documentation in place, with the hand-holding and help in place from things like Area 52 that can walk you directly from making your first Cosmosm contract to building your own application. Like all that's in place. All you need is the idea and the dedication. And I think it's brilliant that we are setting that up. So
yeah, absolutely, Eric. And you touched on some really great things in there. So, I think one of the problems that Archway kind of solves is, grants programs work, but at the same time, they're also broken. And, the reality is I've been very fortunate enough to travel around the world quite a bit. And I go to a lot of these places and cities and there's really smart engineers and very, very talented people in all kinds of communities around the world. But the problem and the challenge is oftentimes, they don't have access to capital and resources alike. And these grant programs are designed where, there's basically a set of resources that are set aside, and it's designed to be distributed towards, a few key stakeholders, a few key apps or supporting infrastructure. And the foundation's job is to basically dole that out. But the problem is people get in the way of things. The relationships get in the way. And so what often happens is like only the insiders, the folks that are connected to the core teams that might know somebody who's in the same city as them, are often only the ones receiving these grants. And while we want to enable a whole developer community to go out there and build, the reality is, if you don't have those relationships and you don't have those connections, and most developers probably like myself, you just want to go ahead and program in your garage, in your attic. You start off the project as an independent developer, and then you start to grab maybe a couple friends to help you out in the project and so forth. You don't have these resources and connections to the top elite VCs or anything like that. And so the reality is you want to just quickly build something, build an MVP, get out to the door. And so what the Archway protocol does is it pragmatically rewards developers with these tokens based on the usage of their contracts. So we remove the people side element of it, and it's really we remove it so that it's completely independent, it's completely decentralized, and we don't care about who and what connections you have. It's all about how well is your app performing on the networking ecosystem. How much value are you bringing to the ecosystem, and how much value is being returned?
Yeah, I love it. Brilliant. So with that in mind, what is kind of the vision of how Archway is going to accomplish this? Like, what does it look like after 1 year? What does it look like after 3 years? And Lord willing, everything works the way we plan, intend, and it does grow and scale. What does this look like in 10 plus years?
Yeah, that's a great thing. So I think that the difference here between Archway and that the community is creating than a whole bunch of other L1s is a lot of L1s are focused on a very specific North Star problem, and the Archway community is focused on a different one. And I'll explain that, and I'll explain the vision. So a lot of the folks right now are in the L1 space are just focused on processing transactions faster and cheaper and quicker. They're trying to get their TPSs up as fast and as high as possible. Our point of view on some of this is that block space is probably going to be commoditized. What I mean by that is it's going to get so cheap and quick and fast to process transactions in the next, let's call it 10 years, that eventually everybody's going to be very fast and cheap. There's going to be no differentiation between any other L1. They're all going to be quick. They're all going to process. They're all going to handle really, really heavy loads. They're all going to be able to manage that trading use case. What Archway does is says, okay, let's look at a different North Star. Let's look at the token economics of the chain itself. Let's reward and focus on trying to create a system that rewards the developers that are building on top so that they can go ahead and build in sustainable dApps that are going to last for a very long time by accessing the streaming reward system. So the Archway protocol is focused on a completely different North Star. And what that means is longer term is the features that will baked in the protocol. We have community teams focused on building customized fees, for instance, within the protocol, being able to add additional contract premiums, being able to receive and design the protocol so that they can all customize the amount of usage of the actual block space that they're actually creating. And so I think Archway is going to continue to innovate on the token economic side. It's going to continue to innovate on how these rewards are distributed so that all ecosystem participants can engage in the underlying protocol.
Yeah, I love it. As a token economist myself, I'm very drawn to Archway and trying to innovate economically, because right now I've seen so much in this space. Brilliant developers making incredible tooling, giving it away for free, or figuring it out ways for the other people to capitalize upon it without them capturing value at all themselves, but just throwing a token and be like, oh, well, we have a token that doesn't capture any of the value. And I see so many projects that like the project can't succeed without the token succeeding. And so then why have a token? And if you are going to have to like access this block space and everything is going to be accessible, then layer ones are like, we have the fat protocol thesis right now, but what that actually leads to in theory is layer ones not retaining the value that they create and having something where the success of the dApps being built upon it directly bring value to the layer one, while that layer one is bringing value again to the creators of those dApps, should create, in theory, a nice cycle of like bringing in the best builders who are incentivized to build the best products instead of just the fastest products or an MVP of a product, but build the best and maintain the best products. And then that value, if the tokenomics are designed properly, which I have really, really good intel on the tokenomics of Archway, that it seems to be looking pretty good. Full transparency, I'm the tokenomics lead for Phi Labs. If the tokenomics are designed properly, that brings value again to that Archway protocol, which captures value with a token, which hasn't been properly done in a lot of different layer ones or projects in the crypto space, which again facilitates the growth of the dApp ecosystem. So it's really nice to see the economics, the rewards modules being purposed, being taken care of and looked after, and not being just an afterthought with only the focus being on the tooling. Things have to align. Things have to have legitimate business models if they are going to go forward and succeed long term. And I think Archway is very well positioned to pull that off.
Yeah, it's really excited about what the community is doing, and to relate back to what's kind of happening even in the Web 2.0 space. A lot of folks probably that are watching the news realize like the Apple App Store is like raising fees across the board for apps, and from a Web 2.0 perspective, these platforms are very extract a lot of value at the end of the day, and you kind of see a similar theme happening in the Web 3.0 space. And I think this is the first time that I've seen where an L1 is really designed from the ground up to give back to the community at the end of the day, give back to the different contributors that are building and engaging in the protocol itself. And so it's really fun to see that design flipped, where you know that you can build on a platform, and that platform cares about what the kind of application you're building on. They care about the community, and the protocol cares about how much value you bring to the community, whether it's transactions or users or activity or whatever the case is. And so it's not all rent stretching at the end of the day, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah, love that. I'd love to see the Apple Store get taken over by the Dapple Store being built out on Archway. So, in theory,
that would be cool.
But we mentioned a little bit about why developers should be interested in Archway. Kind of alluded to it in that they will genuinely earn rewards via Arch through the utility of their protocol. They can also set premiums, kind of like a box office where you have to like pay to use different contracts at different times. Like there are lots of really cool ways and customizable ways that they can choose to monetize their dApps. Why should users be interested in Archway? The Cosmos ecosystem is full of tons of new layer ones, tons of new app chains. Why should they be looking forward to Archway?
Yeah, what's really cool about the Archway protocol is, it enables dApp developers to build basically sustainable dApps at the end of the day. And what's really cool is what you can do with those dApps, and what those dApps that we're seeing in the community that are building and playing on the test nets right now are enabling. So we've seen some teams redirect the Archway native tokens that they're receiving back to their community, which is really cool to kind of see that. So, I think in other protocols, you'll receive, a governance token of some sort if you're a community member of a DeFi protocol or something like that. And, there may be some benefits for holding on to that underlying token and so forth. But, we've seen a lot of dApps experiment with the idea of, what does it look like if we just redirect that Arch token back to the community members, which is exciting. The other thing I think people probably don't understand too well is just like the speed of development that the dApps have as an opportunity. So we're kind of expecting, higher and higher quality dApps being deployed and maintained by the Archway protocol, because now these dApps and these teams have access to a steady stream of rewards, which is really, really exciting. And so this will allow them to be able to innovate in much more creative ways and build much better versions of their products for you as an end user, which is really, really exciting as well. And I think finally, one of the things that the community often talks about around the Archway protocol is right now there's some major use cases around DeFi and NFTs and so forth on L1s. The Archway community isn't really focused on just copycat DeFi protocols or copycat NFT protocols. The community is really focused on how do you leverage the steady stream of rewards to create unique and interesting use cases that can't be possible and deployed on any other L1. And those use cases and those kinds of dApps make it really, really interesting for the end users and for the end community members that are planning to participate in the protocol. So I think you're going to see all kinds of different variations of dApps that you can't see on any other L1 because of what Archway protocol enables.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, lots of tooling that exists currently that will now be much more sustainable, being built on Archway, as well as applications that already kind of exist that are getting low utility, but showing how they can lower the barrier of access. Something like a DEX that could just comp gas for the first couple transactions to make sure they could purchase the gas token on the dApp without having to be your own layer 1 app chain. That's huge. If I don't want to build a DEX where you first have to go to a centralized exchange that has that token listed in order to have the opportunity to use me. You need to test it out first, or an NFT game where you can mint that first NFT for free before purchasing the crypto that would be needed to continue sustaining using the game. Give that free trial period that really hasn't been available to crypto up to this point.
Yeah, exactly. There's all kinds of really, really fun use cases that we see these dApp developers in the Archway community building. So yeah, one of them, as you mentioned, is to subsidize gas fees, right? Which is really, really cool use case. It should enable much better onboarding for you as an end user into the dApp or the ecosystem. Like you said, Eric, you can try a dApp before buying, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one really interesting area. The protocol is also designed to reward contracts based on basically usage. So if one contract calls another contract, that other contract that got called also gets rewarded in the system, which is really exciting. And so what you can start to do is build composable DeFi primitives. And so you can focus on not building necessarily a whole dApp yourself. You can focus on just being one component to that. Maybe it's a specific asset class, like a stable coin. Maybe it's focusing on providing a service like an Oracle service where you would get rewarded in the system every time a third-party dApp would look up data from your Oracle service. So what's really cool is you can focus on more composable elements and just focus on building the best-in-class suite of those. And if another dApp or in the ecosystem uses those components and that dApp gets used, you then get rewarded. So what's really, really, really cool about this is just all these kinds of new use cases that are going to completely open up that weren't possible on any other L1 that really make it exciting. And that includes alternative dApp solutions like, redirecting token rewards to LP providers, or you are redirecting the rewards into a DAO that's governed by the community. So there's all kinds of really unique use cases and modifications and variations that dApp developers can do that really just wasn't possible before on any other L1.
Developer royalties. I'm absolutely here for it, dude.
It is really fun. And, I should also mention, the really positive thing about this is it's built within the Cosmos ecosystem. And so right out of the gate, there's native IBC, the native Cosmos Bridge Protocol, Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol. And what this says is allows the dApps that are building on top of the Archway protocol to also access all the other assets and liquidity throughout the whole Cosmos ecosystem. And so it kind of helps with that jumpstart problem that a lot of L1s have. Your dApp day one can really start to access, the community of the broader Cosmos space. And so really excited about how we're designing the protocol and positioning this protocol within the broader Cosmos space. And I think it should also be kind of noted that, what makes Archway kind of different from a lot of the other projects in the Cosmos space is a lot of these other Cosmos projects are focused on app-specific or self-sovereign chains. And we really believe in that vision. We think it's a fantastic vision, app-specific or self-sovereign chains. The challenge is when you go out to go build your own custom chain, it's really, really expensive. You have to find core protocol engineers to build it. It's really, you have to find resources, you have to bootstrap a validator community and everything else. And so the benefits is you get full customization of your use case, but the cons is it's going to be really expensive and time consuming to get to market. And so what Archway does is the protocol does is it allows you to basically build a dApp similar to building one on Ethereum or Solana or Near or any of these other L1s. It's the same thing. You go ahead and write similar smart contract code, and you just go ahead and deploy it to the protocol. And then right away, you can access the asset liquidity of the ecosystem. And if your app gets really, really big and your community grows really, really big, you can always migrate to your own self-sovereign Cosmos chain. And you have that option and that scalability path for you. But this is just a really great way to jumpstart, get started in the Cosmos space by just deploying and adapt to the Archway protocol.
Yeah, and you touched on IBC, and interchain security is still going to be an option if you do want to eventually migrate your application to its own chain. But as ICS and as IBC grows out, I would love to see Archway be kind of this access point for multi-chain apps as multi-chain queries become available, where you can still charge a premium even if you're using block space and multiple other chains. So as we support the independent sovereign chain narrative, we can also support it in a way that enables a sustainable building model, which should also make for a better user experience, having just kind of one primary access point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what makes it so fun.
So you're the founder and CEO of Phi Labs. Walk us through what is Phi Labs? What are they contributing to, and how big is the team? What are they doing?
Yeah. Phi Labs is a software development company that is contributing to the Archway protocol along with all kinds of other developer initiatives. The team is about 30 people right now all around the globe, which is really fun and exciting, like most Web3 companies. Part of the company is focused on, in their part-time, is contributing to the Archway protocol, but they're also building software development tools to make developer lives much, much easier, similar to a product I think pretty cool that the community should go try out if they're first trying to get into the space. It's called Area 52. It's a fun developer online tool to basically walk you as a brand new developer through building your very first smart contract. And it starts at such a great entry point that even folks that have never even written any code before can go ahead and start on day one, and it walks you through how to build a smart contract completely from scratch, which is really exciting. And so Phi Labs is really focused on developers' tools and education and, hopefully the broader Archway community as well.
Love it. I'm from the crypto class of 2017 and did my first smart contract doing crypto zombies back on Ethereum. And it was brilliant. And it onboarded so many people to Solidity. But now we're seeing Rust really, really taking off as a language with the specificity. I think Golang's really taken off right now as well. And we need better specific contracts to be made. I mean, so many exploits have happened just because Solidity doesn't backtrack the rest of the hashes. Like we need Rust to take off, but a lot of schools haven't kept up with it yet. So a lot of developers are still being taught C# and Solidity if they're trying to get into Web3. And there hasn't been this educational marketplace, so to speak, to freely, easily, and gamifiably learn these languages that are actually going to develop the internet of the future. And Archway is doing that or Phi Labs is doing that with Area 52. So viewers, check out area-52.io, plug for them, and go learn your first smart contract in CosmWasm and in Rust.
Yeah, definitely. And even if you're a seasoned developer and you just need to refresh your Rust skills, it's a great place to go to just refresh or learn a brand new language in the first place. Yep.
So Griffin, as we're getting closer and closer to mainnet launch, and we're now launching this Arch-In show, what do you want the users to know? What do you want to resonate with them as they prepare to maybe see if they're going to get an airdrop and hear about more of the applications that have been building in the background on Archway as they get ready for this new wave of economic sustainability coming to the Cosmos ecosystem? What do they need to know from you about Archway?
Yeah, that's a great question. The Archway community is getting very, very close to launching mainnet. I don't think there's a public date out, but it is right around the corner. So there'll definitely be some interesting announcements, I'm sure, in Q1 of 2023. And I don't have any alpha today on this call, unfortunately. A lot of these decisions are made by the foundation and the community, so it's really a consensus and a decision that they have to make. But I have heard some exciting things about airdrops behind the scenes within the community as well. So I would say keep a lookout on that as well. I think one of the cool things is really the folks and the dApp developers and the teams and the infrastructure providers that are all supporting and contributing to the protocol are really, really excited about the opportunity of the new use case. Sometimes, it's really difficult to just build the 30th NFT project on an L1 or something like that. And it's really hard to be innovative and try new things when a lot of these use cases have already been done. And obviously you can do just copycat stuff. But, I really recommend, diving in and try to really understand how the pragmatic rewards work so you can really understand what's possible and what's enabled here on the protocol that really can't be done in any other L1.
Absolutely. And if you're going to tell anybody about Archway, just go and make sure that they know that Archway is built for builders, by builders, ready to onboard the next wave of people that want to build out the internet. It's hard to get the old established rich people to work. They don't have the incentives and reason to, but all of us young bucks that I can't really say that as much anymore, but the new young bucks coming up through college who didn't get that first wave of Bitcoin or that first wave of Ethereum, but have this idea of how they can build something that will be used, that will make something more efficient, that will gather and garner a new community. Whatever they want to build that can be a new brilliant business, they can build better, easier, faster, more sustainably on Archway. Yep,
which makes it really, really exciting.
Griffin, before we close up here with you, how can people reach out to you if they want to hear more from you, if they want you to join their Twitter spaces and talk more about Archway and the vision behind it? How are you best reached?
Yeah, so I'll start with Phi Labs first of all. So you definitely we'll go ahead and add all the Phi Labs socials to the footer here that's connected to this podcast as well. And then I would say, definitely for the Archway community, if you want to get involved in the community, it's probably best to go to archway.io, has the website with all the information. And from there, you can find Twitter, Archway HQ, and the Discord, and the rest of the community, and get involved with all of them. So great opportunity. But we'll go ahead and add all the links to the footer where this podcast is displayed.
Griffin, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing more from you going forward.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Well, guys, that was Griffin Anderson, founder and CEO of Phi Labs. And again, this is the Archin show and podcast. Please like, follow, subscribe to us on YouTube. We will have audio-only transcripts coming out pretty soon on whatever podcast form you listen to, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. So please keep in touch there, and we will continue bringing you news, updates, interviews, both internal and external, from anyone contributing to the Archway ecosystem, which is a lot of the layer one players you've already heard of, and a lot of applications you have and have not heard of. So a lot of development's been going on. I know the market has been tough, but the building has not even remotely slowed down. So please